Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with author and activist Sandy Stream. Her work is built on the belief that everyone deserves and is capable of finding peace and warrior-like strength within themselves. After teaching law for 20 years, raising her 2 children, and facing a life full of adversities and lessons, she decided to turn her efforts towards facilitating workshops for young and experienced adults to encourage them to live in peace and power. Enjoy the interview. Sandy, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Hi, Joe. Very nice to be here with you.
I appreciate you sending me over the book, The Courage Circle, and I've really enjoyed reading it. It's so good that you can put all of these collectives that you've lived through and made them into these aphorisms and these ways that people can learn and get better in their lives.
Thank you very much. And yeah, when you talk about your audio, I'm so glad you made that choice. I think sound is so key in terms of us understanding each other. So it's really cool you did that. But at the same time, my video, it didn't work today. So
I know.
It reminds me once I ran into a yoga studio all sweating and stressed out and trying to get there on time to just go relax. And the person at the counter answered, "Relax, nothing's under control." So
that's right.
That's what I think about now. Yeah.
Well, speaking of relax, nothing's under control. The last 3 years with COVID's been quite a thing for all of us to live through. So I'm curious, how did you survive that time period, and how has it changed the way that you live your life now?
You say survive, but it doesn't mean it was easy. I certainly survived, but actually it was extremely difficult time for me in my family, my home, and my personal. And I guess that's where the book came out of. I started trying to find my own sanity and listening to talks, meditating, crying, freaking out, doing anything and everything, and started taking notes about what was actually working, as bringing me a state of feeling well. And finally, these sanity notes, as I like to call them, I put them together into a book, and it's at least my pieces of my puzzle in terms of how to feel okay in the world pretty much all the time, no matter what's happening around you, how to actually navigate yourself in the world to feel, just generally well and not, and just knowing how to navigate yourself, I guess. So that's my summary of COVID. I barely survived, but I came out of it actually feeling quite well and do really well now. Not in terms of external things. So it's not in terms of like, did I succeed at this and that? Is my relationship perfect, this and that? But just internally, I feel well. So that's, I think, what we all kind of look for to be able to function no matter what's going on around us.
So you're an author, activist, you taught law for 20 years. I'm curious, if I was to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids right now, at a career day, 3rd graders, and one of them looked up and asked you, "What do you do for a living?" How would you answer that child?
What I do for a living is live. So I'm just myself. That's what I would say I do for a living. In terms of earning income, maybe that's a different question, but really being yourself is what I would describe as title. And I do find it unfortunate that, kids are, and I'm active a little bit at the school of my daughter, that are taught that really their titles or their careers are what define them and what give them points of how good they are or not good they are. So I wouldn't want to encourage that by overusing my own title to give myself more importance than other people. In terms of legal title, I don't like to use that in terms of giving an impression of superiority over anyone, regardless what they might have done or achieved or lived through, because I don't think that's what defines us as human beings.
So let's go to the source here, the beginnings of your life. Where were you born and raised, and how did these seeds get into you to be an activist and an author, and, even with your the Courage Circle, dispensing wisdom onto people? How did all of this begin for you and grow into who you are today?
I lived in Canada pretty much most of my life, and I don't know if I had a more eventful or difficult childhood than others, but I had my challenges all along, and then I had challenges as a young married person, and then I had challenges, I just lived challenges, I think, like everybody does all the time. But maybe one thing that was different for me that maybe others don't have is I had a very loving grandmother. And so no matter what was going on, there was always like a piece of me that really cared for my own well-being and trying to get out of whatever mess I was in and trying to, believe in myself and keep going. And so, I managed with my challenges to look up and get help, whether it was with trauma or with this or with that, and to just seek ways. I was always seeking, what way to live, to help myself or to feel well. And so I think that's the overarching thing that happened in my life. But I think, like many people, I didn't really feel like I was understood in my life. And that was very painful in general. Most people don't have a listening capacity that is beyond, I'll listen to you for 1 second and give you advice right away on what you should do. And for me, that's not what I consider to be really listening and understanding. And I wasn't doing it myself, so I'm not really blaming or criticizing anyone. I don't think I was the best listener either, until maybe relatively recently, where I really have learned the power of listening, whether it's to yourself or to another person, in a certain way. There's a certain energy of listening that's very helpful to people. And so after my, publishing my book, I decided I'm going to do groups in person. And so now we meet in person once or twice a week, and we discuss all kinds of topics with proper listening. And so we can discuss anything about pride. We discuss how to say no. We discuss what is putting people down. We discuss what is listening, anyways. And when you're in an environment, in a group where people are respected as individuals, regardless, again, of titles, experiences, pain, whatever else, there's a baseline of respect that's in the room, and there's a baseline of listening that's in the room. In that environment, people really can open up and share, their thoughts, their experiences, everything else, and it's a really magical place. I wish it would expand into the world, actually, and just be what's normal in the world would be for people to interact this way.
So, who have you considered kind of a role model or a hero for you in your life? Someone you've admired and looked up to?
Role model. I kind of I don't know if I look up to anyone or look down to anyone anymore. I've certainly been inspired by many people, but I feel at this point, I'm inspired all the time by everybody. So, every person that comes in the circle, like, for example, last week somebody came and said, I came to the circle because I have social anxiety and I wanted to, see if this can help or something like that. So for me, I don't want to say I look up or look down, but certainly for me, that's like, wow, that's just unbelievable. I mean, that's so brave to walk into this room, given your current life experience, and do what you're about to do. Like, it's just fascinating to me how people are so courageous. It's so that person was quite inspiring to me, if you want to ask. And overall, I mean, tons of people have come in and out of my life and just taught me in different ways, different lessons. It's pretty much all the time, I guess, right? Where if you see everything and everyone as a teacher, then everything and everyone is a teacher.
So, if you could meet anybody alive right now on the planet, spend a little time with them and talk to them, who would it be?
Other than you, Joe?
Yes.
Oh, who would I love to spend time on the planet with? I would love to sit with, I've never really practiced Buddhism, and I don't consider myself a specific practice anyways, but I'd be really curious to sit and meet many different Buddhist people, just to experience the level of peace that they seem to have on a constant basis. So just maybe hop around and meet different ones and just sense their energy and see what it's like to be around people that actually feel peaceful in themselves. I think that would be very interesting for me. I'd love that.
So, as an author, what was the first book you read that either made you want to write or really opened up a portal into you to want to read more?
So you called me an author, which I really appreciate because it makes sense. I wrote a book, so it makes sense to call me an author. But I had a bit of a difficulty with that term because I don't necessarily see myself as an author. And when we had to do the description in the back of the book and do the what is your CV, and I was having a hard time. Like, what do I write here? I don't really see myself as this and that. And finally, I kind of landed a little bit more on the word activist because that's what I feel I am a little bit more. And what I mean by an activist is just a person that is acting on a constant basis in accordance with what I feel I should do in this world. And, putting myself into places and conversations and interactions that are active, considering my own learnings and my values. So actively living from those places. So I like the word activist a bit more, but yes, books seem to just come out of me. They've come up often, but they're really just my own trying to make sense. It's like my own, like I said, my sanity notes, organizing myself for myself, and then they end up, organizing. I'm happy to share if they end up helping other people organize their own, feelings and thoughts and navigate their own way in their life.
So ultimately, you're a highly driven person, and you're giving a lot to others and helping them. What is your motivation? What is it that gets you out of the bed? What is it that makes you move forward and be who you are every day?
Such an interesting question, Joe. So before, this latest phase that I'm living, I was, you're often externally driven, meaning, and I was as well, I'm sure, like you're trying to achieve certain things that appear successful to the world or to parents or to colleagues or whatever they might appear to others. And this process that I've been in the past few years was really looking internally for a lot, if not all things. When you're looking for approval, it's internal. Validation, approval, acceptance, it's internal. Love, internal. Like a lot of things you're looking for internally. So once you start to feel that way, the drive is very different. So you're not driven to do things because other people think it's smart or cool or successful, or other people will like you, respect you, or approve of you, or other people. You're really now driven from something a little bit deeper. And yeah, it's correct that I feel very driven at this point. And what I'm driven is to do my little part in the world to make it a more peaceful and healthy place. That's my drive, just to do my part. And I do sincerely believe that if people find their own inner state where they're functioning internally at peace with themselves, they will just be more peaceful externally. What happens on the inside happens on the outside. And that is really the source of the issues that we have in the world. I think that is the kind of the deeper source of issues, this internal feeling that people walk around with and then end up acting from whatever's going on inside. So I guess it's just like everyone else, wanting a little bit of peace in our world and doing my little part to hopefully encourage that in the right direction.
For sure. Yeah, it's a collective effort. What
Yeah.
what has been one of the best fan letters you've gotten from the Courage Circle?
Um, fan letters, I don't know, but I definitely get remarks all the time. I mean, people say different things to me all the time. And one thing that comes to mind when you ask this question is someone that came up to me and said that, that this is actually two people. One had came up and said, this is the only place that they feel that they can just be. And the other person that came up to me once and said that I think this was like the first time in their life, and I'm sure this person was over 35 or something, that they had felt that somebody actually listened to them.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into like a 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that younger version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've lived, the things you've overcome, the accomplishments, the wisdom. What would you tell your young version?
I would tell my young version to trust yourself. I think we're often given messages from others indirectly or subtly, not to follow ourselves, not to trust ourselves, not to do what we feel, what we think. And so it's very hard to do that when you're getting a lot of messages from outside that are different. That's definitely one message I try to pass on to others now. I don't want to say I wish I knew that at 20, but if you're telling me, okay, you got to go back and tell something, I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
So, of everything that you have done up to this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
We actually did a circle once to talk about, this feeling of pride, and how, again, we've been taught to be proud, like you're supposed to be proud of this or that, or, you should be proud of this. It's all external. And to try to look internally, what are the things that you actually feel proud of, not what other people think you should feel proud of, but what you actually feel proud of. I think usually the biggest moments that I internally felt proud of myself was when I was just afraid to do something, and then I kind of managed to go ahead. So this happened many different times, obviously. Setting boundaries was very difficult and scary many times. So I've had moments where I felt good to be able to do that, even if it was difficult, painful, or if I'm crying, but still felt proud of those. Other moments was actually even creating this courage circle was very hard for me. I'm not a person that's usually on social media, even though I was teaching legal aspects, but I didn't, operate in the world in this way. And definitely doing podcasts was way out of my comfort zone. And I felt proud to overcome the fear of doing those, at least the first two that I did. And now I'm a little bit more comfortable, Joe. Still not all 100%, but definitely feel that I have to do them. So I'm doing them. So that I feel, proud that I was able to overcome those fears as well.
Well, you sound like a pro to me, for sure. One of the reasons why we're talking is the circle, the courage circle, and I'm curious if you were to fashion a tweet or two to sell this book, how would you do that? How would you convince somebody out there to buy your book?
Like I said, I don't use social media or Twitter or anything else, but on the website, what we wrote, there's two sentences that I felt spoke well to the content. So on the main page, we write, are you ready to stand up for yourself? And on the other page of what we call followers, on my website, it's actually a page encouraging people not to follow. So it says, don't follow me, follow you. And so those two things, I think, really represent, in at least in a Twitter type of way, I guess, a little bit the essence or some of the content in the book.
So to get to more of the essence of you and exactly who you are, everyone out there has a perception of you. You have pockets of people, family, friends, readers, clients, colleagues, but you ultimately are in control. You live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think what I am is just an individual being on this earth. I don't want to say just as if it's something small, because I don't think anybody is small. I'm an individual who has energy inside and has guidance inside and can use my guidance and energy to do certain things in the world. And there is a very soft side of me that I consider it like the front of the body. The heart is very soft. And there is a very strong part of me, which I feel more like in my spine in terms of being warrior-like in your convictions and in how you operate. And so, I don't know, how do I describe myself? A soft, strong energy, something like that, moving around the world.
Excellent. So if anyone out there wants to pick up the Courage Circle, learn more about you, anything pertaining to your world, where do they go?
Well, I only got my website, not only, but that's where I, reach out to people or people reach out to me. So it's called thecouragecircle.com. And so if anyone wants to contact me or join our meetups, the meetups are in Montreal. So if you come to Montreal, you're welcome to join in person. or contact me for other ideas or whatever else, I'll be happy. So that's where it is, thecouragecircle.com.
Wonderful, Sandy. I got to say, I've really enjoyed reading this book. There's something very appealing to something, because I tend to be short bursts kind of in the poetry mode. So when I have the chance to kind of pick it up and read some passages and then move on, it's really well done. And I do appreciate you bringing up my sound. And it's always good to evolve in this craft. And I tend to be kind of in transit, so sometimes that's the reason why the sound is the way it is, but I'm going to put more attention to it, and it's a good thing.
Well, it sounds great to me anyways today, Joe. So I don't know what you bought or what you did, but to me it sounds really good.
It was the Sandy effect. That was what it was. So
okay, well, I'm glad I can help with that.
Absolutely. Again, Sandy, thank you for sending over the book. Thank you for opening up about your life and your world. I really appreciate it, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you, and best of luck to you, Joe.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.